Check. Hello. All right. How's everybody doing? What's up? It's been a minute. Feel like it's probably been a little extra long since our last time we've all hung out. Just getting a few things arranged here. All right. Scorpion Core Universe, what's up? Hey, yeah, so for anybody new, it's kind of in the middle of this sculpt. Been going on it for a while now, but I'm feeling pretty good about the shape of his face. And this has taken a while because I've only worked on this not even 2 hours each stream because I always wound up answering questions or doing other things. So I'm gonna try to just plug away at this. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, general or advanced, regarding ZBrush or 3D modeling or about the industry or how to get into it or how to get out of it, just give me a holler in the chat. And I don't check chat all the time. I mean, I'll be working and then I'll intermittently check. So don't feel bad if I don't reply immediately. It's just hopefully I'm in the zone. So we got the glasses. Remember I was checking them out before, trying to get their alignment right. That was a while ago. I feel like they're probably at this point good enough. I don't want to just keep hanging on to small details. I think we're gonna have to get to mouth, teeth, and I will get back to the glasses. I think for now the teeth need some TLC. Don't do that. Thinking Thinking backwards here, I want to manipulate the gums, not the indentation above them. Derp. Can you rig stuff as well so you can animate it? I mean, I'm sure I can learn how to rig, but I I don't know how to rig currently. I mean, I know very, very little. It's something I started learning on and off middle of last year, and then just kind of let it hang and um, sunk into, I wouldn't say depression, kind of depression. I don't know. It was like a weird apathy last year, just not being motivated to do much, sadly, to be real, to be authentic about it. Because there wasn't a lot of work, you know, and I should have taken that, I should have taken advantage of all that time. But unfortunately, I'm human and I didn't, and I knew I would be upset with myself for not taking better advantage of it. But at the same time, in some ways, it was kind of nice to have a break, like a little bit of a respite from constant work and chasing after different things. So for me, I think in some ways, I needed that time away from really heavy focus on anything, but um, sort of just recentering, you know, like kind of refocusing myself and my life. And in a sense, there's some of that guilt that a lot of artists deal with and that I'm dealing with, and in some ways of looking back and being like, why didn't I take more advantage of that time or do X or talk to this person or network here, or, you know, uh, feeling guilt about it's not going to fix anything. So for me, I'm looking more into just how to use all that energy and frustration and just pushing it forward now to just work harder and just, you know, just push myself forward. So rigging's on the plate, like rigging's on my docket for things to learn. I mean, you can kind of create like a rudimentary rig in ZBrush called a Z-sphere rig, you know, where you use Z-spheres to kind of create attachments where it kind of binds to general distances of your mesh surrounding it. But that only works in ZBrush. You can't transfer it in or out anywhere. So if you just want to pose a character and want to try it that way, you can. It's effective, but it's also not in some areas, and that's where I always wind up just using masks and selecting around joints and edge loops, so like around the, you know, elbow, wherever, just doing your flexion, like blurring the mask, and then just, you know, doing your posing, your bends that way. But yeah, for animation, you want to rig, but you want to rig in Maya basically, or an Unreal if you're gonna, you know, go real time, or Unity or whatever your package of choice is. But yeah, no, rigging in ZBrush is next to useless, really. It's fine for posing ish, but like I said, you even want to just use masking, I think, and create joint, like just do what I'm doing now, and like put this at the right joint that would require it to rotate in a certain direction for, you know, whatever appendage you're trying to pose. Reminds you of Mudbox. Yeah, it's very similar to Mudbox. I mean, for me, I think it's better in a lot of ways. But amazingly, there's people who still use Mudbox. I'm surprised. There's people. So I've been working at Digital Domain recently. Started there recently, and there's a lot of people there apparently who, or at least some who will jump into Mudbox because it's easier to just go back and forth between that and Maya. Um, I just find that interesting that there's still people using it. But for me, I'm still a ZBrush guy, so I'm glad I can still use that there too. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Um, I guess there are pros and cons to everything, but for me, I just see so many more advantages to using ZBrush than Mudbox overall. I was kind of surprised that overall there are people there who still use Mudbox. It's just feels like it's such a older program, and I haven't really heard or seen anything new about it, like really expanding its arsenal of tools. But maybe it's still, I guess it's still useful, or at least it still has its basic functions, of course, of sculpting and, all that. But anyway. Can you say I and then spell map and then say Ness? Okay. I mean, I think typing anything while saying other words is a challenge for almost anybody. Like I found that if I'm trying to talk with somebody and I'm writing something like trying to write an email, that conflicts in the brain for me because you're where I guess however your neurons are connected for what says speak these words, spell this word, think this sentence. It all intersects. It all is part of the same root in your brain. And so for me, it's really hard to, I think most people, it's pretty hard to speak and type a full sentence and carry on a full conversation while writing a different sentence for another conversation. Um, but I can carry on full conversations while I do anything in this area where it's visual and motor, motor cortex oriented, fine motor movement, all that kind of stuff. I listen to audiobooks all the time or podcasts while I'm sculpting. Have full conversations on the phone with different people while I'm sculpting. No problem. Full function, both full capacity. But when it comes to writing words and speaking them while, writing something while also speaking with someone on the phone, next to impossible. I mean, it's just they'll get conflated. Maybe I'll either say what I'm typing or type what I'm saying at times. It's hilarious. Um, or it's even like I don't know. So childhood memory. This is funny for those of you who grew up in a religious or spiritual home. I remember as a kid, very young kid, my parents would like to have like family devotions where we'd read the Bible together and then kind of talk about what we read and then we'd say a prayer together. Like all of us would say a prayer, go around the circle, four of us. And whether it's for whatever, they wouldn't tell us what to pray about. Of course, we just pray what's ever in our heart and talk to God openly. And I remember many times we'd always do this at the end of the night, like at the end of the day when everyone's home from work and everyone's done with school and homework and everything else, and we're just about to go to bed. We'd all get together and do this. And often, as a kid, I would be so tired, I just want to go to sleep. So we're closing our eyes after a little Bible reading, and I would often start dreaming or falling asleep while someone else had started praying. So then when they nudge me, be like, Daniel, it's your turn, go ahead. I would just be like falling half asleep. So I'd be like, God, thank you for the dry cleaners who picked up my car. And it's totally arbitrary, random stuff that would make no sense. And that would happen a lot. And it would be hilarious because then everyone would just bust up laughing. And then I'd wake up and just be like, oh, well, thank you for blah, 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 blah. And, whatever, please help so-and-so with this. And da-da-da. And then boom, and then sign off. Go to bed and pass out. But yeah, it's just funny, the language and the brain and how things orchestrate and what comes out. It's pretty funny. Anyway, yeah, good memories. I mean, I was like single digit age for a lot of that. But yeah, pretty funny stuff. Is that an animated poster? Oh, you're asking about my Matrix thing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, I made it that way. I bought the poster just as it was. I can tilt the camera up so you guys can get a full look. This is Free Your Mind up at the top. But then I bought the poster just as is. It's a foil foil print, I guess you call it. Not really lenticular, but I know they make some of them like that too. But this one's just like one of 300 that they made. Um, Really nice reflective foil that's patterned along the code. And then I bought the frame. It's like one of those snap fit ones you can get off Amazon. Pretty good one, and it's pretty well made. And then I bought a bunch of LED lights like around Christmas time that do the kind of the rain droplet thing. It's perfect. So I just fastened all these, like I lined them up with the code, looked back and forth to make sure it was lined up properly, and then just like, you know, affix them to the back with like tape, basically. It's like you never know because it's so flat and everything's so like compact back there, so it lays against the wall perfectly. But yeah, really just jerry rigged it pretty easily, pretty quickly. I used actually reflective duct tape so that you had like an aluminum reflectivity, so any light that would be leaking would actually just bounce straight back through. Yeah, and it works. So I remember seeing something like that at some movie theater when I think when Reloaded was coming out. And so I just figured I'd make my own. And regardless of the lights behind it, the poster itself looks great with any kind of light bouncing off of it because it's really reflective. So I've heard the synopsis for the new Matrix film now, and so I'm very much like, I don't know, could work or it could be pretty bad, like pretty cheesy. So I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But I feel like it's going to be one or the other. Like probably just divide people. Probably just see like some people are going to hate it, some people are going to love it. But yeah, I'm curious. I mean, it's still, you know, there's a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity for it to be fantastic and fun. I remember Keanu said in some interview that it's a beautiful love story. So I mean, hopefully that, you know, that can always be inspiring and uplifting to see in cinema when it's done well. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think Keanu has pretty good sensibilities in general. I like a lot of what he's chosen to do and what he's choosing to do now, especially with John Wick and this comic book that he's helped create and he's, you know, embodying the character of and will be making a movie of too, called Berserker, without any vowels. It's pretty fun. I gotta say, it's pretty fucking badass. Like, it's pretty good. Check it out if you can. It's at comic stores right now everywhere. I just walked down the street to the one that's here in Manhattan Beach and I got myself both issues 1 and 2 when they came out. And yeah, some pretty cool variant covers if you're into that, you know, like different art for the covers. Different artists will do the covers. It's just a really fun, just badass action, just no holds barred, just brutal, violent, awesome. It's just badass action story, action adventure. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's really done correctly as far as a comic book goes, where it's not just tons of dialogue. They intersplice the dialogue with the visual panels, so it's really more of a visual narrative, like, which is what it should be because it's a visual medium. So if they tell as much as they can, they show as much as they can rather than telling you. So there's like some little kind of what you call almost like a voiceover narration going throughout the whole first issue. I almost said episode because it kind of feels like it. It's phenomenal. It's fantastic. It's just brutal, violent, awesome, crazy, fast, just explosive action. Yeah, so I really look forward to if they can make it like 300 sort of did, like you follow frame for frame a lot of what they have in the comic, and just breathe life into it and put it in motion. It's gonna be freaking amazing. Like that movie that'll be his next Matrix, I think, like the next level of, because John Wick is kind of like the next big thing. Like there was the Matrix trilogy, although everyone agrees like the first one was the best. All the John Wicks are pretty good, I think. Like I really love all of them for different reasons, but I feel like that was his next really big thing out of everything else he's done that's been great too. And now I think Berserker will be the next, maybe his last, I don't know, but like his next really big set of films, or one film if they can pack it into one, I don't know. But anyway, so all that being said, saying his sensibilities are good, hopefully, I mean, yeah, he's had some duds too. I think like Replicas was pretty bad. But that's not his fault. It's just the writing. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how the new Matrix goes. They voice acted in Cyberpunk. Yep. Yeah. I didn't know about Berserker. It looks cinematic. Yeah, it's very cinematic. It's very epic, and it's like almost like it's almost like a storyboard, like a really good storyboard for a film. That's what it really feels like, and I think that's really effective. Like I want to read more comics like that, like, or I want to look at more comics like that. I don't really collect comics on any kind of regular basis at all. I mean, it's been decades probably before I've even bought another comic. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I bought some, but usually they're movie adaptations because I'm such a movie nut. I remember I bought a bunch of Jurassic Park comics when I was a little kid. I bought Sonic the Hedgehog comics for a little bit. Um, but yeah, I just never really got big into. I never cared about superheroes, and I still don't really. I'll enjoy the movies like Endgame, whatever. But I'm just not a big superhero fan. Just don't really care. And now that Endgame's over, I'm really not personally excited about anything that Marvel or Disney are really doing. Um, I'm kind of done. Like it's so super saturated with films, with superhero films. I mean, if someone's gonna approach something the way Christopher Nolan did, the Batman trilogy, because I recently rewatched the original Tim Burton Batman's and Batman and Batman Returns, and yeah, I mean, I like Michael Keaton as an actor, but he does not imbue. Even though the comics and the animated series have always shown Bruce Wayne to be like Michael Keaton is so small and just small in every way, just a small guy. He doesn't even have the like heroic proportions. And I'm not saying like seven heads or whatever. I just mean like the more V-shaped. What's that, like mesomorph? Kind of like not like I'm the greatest thing ever. I mean, just like my form is like a V. It's much more the athletic build, and that's the kind of framework you want for any hero typically, right? Wide shoulders, thin waist, that wedge kind of shape, right? And Michael Keaton's just like a little guy. It's just funny because I'm like, why would you? Looking back, it's like terrible choice. Good actor, but just visually doesn't fit the bill at all. Christian Bale's like the perfect Bruce Wayne by comparison, like leaps and bounds beyond Keaton. But Keaton has a lot of charisma. He's got a really good sense of expression, and he's a good actor. Like I really like him as an actor personally. But I just think it's funny how there's such a difference in the whole, just the cadence and the way he carries himself and everything. And just the quality. But they did a good job for their time. I mean, I remember people freaked out over the Batman films. I really think Val Kilmer was probably a better Bruce Wayne in a lot of ways than Keaton. And Batman Forever is such a weird. I remember hearing some commentary about it on YouTube, and it's just so bizarre to see the different takes on Batman Forever, and yeah, it's weird. Like Jim Carrey should have been the Joker. I think that would have been a better fit for him than anything. What am I doing here? Uh, than the Riddler, because he's Carrey's such a comedian. And the Riddler was never meant to, like, from what I remember, he was never meant to be like a funny character so much as just an intelligent, witty one, right? Um, and then Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, ridiculous too. Like, because it's always so like he's laughing all the time and kind of cackling and crazy, and it's like, again, from what I remember watching like the animated series as a kid with my sister, she was huge into Batman, and I never really read the comics that much, but I've seen a lot of the panels and a lot of images from them. I just never got the vibe that Harvey Dent was this cackling, maniacal, weird, goofy, really like cheesy character, like what we saw Tommy Lee Jones do. But it made a lot more sense with Aaron Eckhart playing Harvey Dent. I think that take and that look, of course, was freaking amazing. You know, that look of just like facial devastation and the exposed anatomy was just pretty awesome, pretty shocking. But that was such a better fit. But anyway, the '90s, man, so much greatness and so much weirdness. But yeah, I miss the '90s though. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. There was a lot of invention, a lot of newness. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot to look forward to, or like to just be shocked by, to be exposed to, and being like, wow, this is the first time we've ever seen blank. And now it's just like we're still just. It feels like studios are just imitating and ripping off and or remaking and rebooting everything from the 90s and trying to get back that success, and it always feels like a cheap imitation or like a weird a weird callback, you know, or trying to like, I don't know. It's just like they're always imitating what they did better, what was more original and was done better in the 90s and 80s. And there's not as much originality now. There's not as much experimentation. Studios are more risk adverse, I guess. They don't want to risk investing. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it was about. There was something more in the zeitgeist. There's something more just like one hit after another overall, like these big movies that made a lot of money. And I don't know. I'm sure there were flops. I know there were flops in the 90s that had money invested in them too. Like I hated it, but I remember seeing most of Howard the Duck and what else? I know there's some big movies that had a lot of money behind them, but I just feel like there was a lot of big movies when we grew up as kids that there weren't a lot of huge flops. There weren't a lot of like multi-million, you know, huge $1 million movies that were terrible. But now it feels like there's a lot more. It was like it's ironic almost that they're trying to imitate what was done so well back then and putting even more money into films now, and then there's some really big disasters, and it's just I don't know what it is. Like people not trusting the talent. I mean, I'm just really curious. Like, what is the? Or just terrible writers, or people who just I don't know, executives who make really bad calls and are making calls they probably shouldn't, not trusting creatives. I don't know, but I hope to be somebody who can break that mold with future films I want to make. Because I have a longing and a um, yeah, just a lot of nostalgia for what we experienced, but also a lot of new ideas and a lot of things that we haven't seen before and that haven't been done, either done or done well. There's definitely probably a few brands I'd like to remake or reboot. I hate saying that, but only because they've been they've been mistreated so badly. And I'm like, no, these people don't get the property, they don't get the idea, they don't get what made something special. And it's like, how is so much money entrusted to people who have such terrible sensibilities? It's all about who you know, I guess, right? That's what it comes down to in like every aspect of life, and especially in entertainment. If you're good at schmoozing and networking and bullshitting, I guess you're gonna really move some mountains in the entertainment world. But anyway, sorry, I'm just bitching. Um, I'm moving the teeth around here with a very easy trick, by the way. So instead of having to switch to your move tool and tap every single one, I just have my move topological brush at 1. So bring it down to the lowest setting, and it will let you move every mesh that's an independent mesh by itself, which is super handy for doing things like this, where it's like just making quick adjustments, and you just need to move them around independently, quickly, to kind of get that correct view, correct angle, I should say. All right, so now it looks the gap there makes him look like a little bit of a snaggletooth, but just getting things aligned. All right, so oops, so we want to be on the teeth. So there we go. It's amazing, just little changes, little adjustments, like such subtle things can be changed in the human face, and it makes such a dramatic difference in how the face is perceived, social norms, how how we're conditioned by cultural norms. Like there's so many things that play into how a face is perceived, and it's just little things. Move the teeth from here to there, and you have a totally different perception of this individual. It's hilarious. It's amazing. Subtle changes, little things. Okay, so that's where the teeth are aligned properly. Oops. Like so. But the gums need to be adjusted then too. So. This is the British Neo. I'm just kidding. The stereotype. Affleck was perfect. He was okay. Yeah, he was all right. Yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, he definitely has. You were thinking about just the look, the color, the hair, the shape of the face. It's very close to the animated series and comic too. It's very close. Yeah, he was good. He was fine. I mean, I'll take either Christian Bale or him over Keaton. I'm very curious to see how what's his name from Twilight, how he's gonna do with the Batman. Um, I mean, the suit, how he looks in the suit looks cool, but you know, who knows? Who knows what how everything's gonna translate to in the end? I remember hearing rumors like a few weeks ago, excuse me, about drama on the set and how executives aren't happy with the cut they saw of the film and all this stuff. And part of us, a lot of people are like, is that even true? Or are they just trying to put that out there just to drum up press to remind people that this movie's coming out? But it's a smart tactic, and it's like, yeah, it makes sense. It's also very kind of becomes conspiratorial, like arbitrarily coming up with things like, I don't really believe that. I think they're doing this instead. Like, who knows? And who cares? It's like, I don't know. I'm not sure I love people. People love Hollywood gossip, but part of me's just like, dude, just make good art. No one wants to hear about the drama. And people who are causing drama, just get out of the way. Let artists make great art. But I don't know. Dollar values behind a movie, or I should say after the movie comes out, doesn't always mean that it's a great movie. There are some more independent films that are fantastic and they just don't get love or the attention they deserve. But yeah, marketing's interesting, right? Like, you market the shit out of something and get it out in public conscious a lot, people will respond by paying to see it or out of curiosity, even if it's mediocre or subpar. So it was interesting how certain things succeed and what makes them succeed versus just, a good film will always get good word of mouth, though. That's the thing, and I think that's still the strongest. It's one of the strongest forms of perpetuating success. It's your friends telling you, like, "Oh my God, I saw a blank. You should go see it too. It's phenomenal. Let me buy your ticket. I'll take you. Just trust me. Let's go see it." That kind of thing. All right, so I think some of this needs to be just arranged, and then I'll adjust the gums to them too, because I think the gums are a little wonky because I rotated the head and everything, but I think the gums were probably not as give it as much manipulation or attention to. Plus, again, a lot of this won't be seen, but I at least want the front of the teeth to look good. I'm probably going to have to, like, solidify a lot in the inside of the mouth because this will be 3D printed, so there's not going to be a ton of... You're not going to be able to see too deep into the mouth since it's not even open that big. I wonder what would happen if I googled Keanu Reeves' teeth. I'm afraid I have not stepped that deep into the rabbit hole. But, I mean, I could probably just Google, like, Keanu Reeves' smile or something, and that'd probably be adequate. I think if I Google celebrity blank teeth, that might be kind of scary. Oh, there's funny photos, right? People have made those photos of, I think they replace, or they take people's teeth out, so they're just gums, and then they put them in the eyes sometimes, like just to fuck with everybody. It's hilarious and weird. Bizarre. Pretty much, if you can imagine it, the internet's probably done it. And then there's a lot of things we can't imagine that the internet's already taken care of too. Yikes. Anyway. So yeah, sorry, this is not that entertaining, I know. Which is why I'm trying to have some monologues about movies, I guess. Just musing, thinking out loud. Because arranging teeth and fixing the nitty-gritty, it all cumulatively, of course, adds up to a great final product, but it's never that fun to watch, probably, because it's just little adjustments here and there in the mouth. You know, it's like, I mean, I guess maybe the dentistry students or professionals out there might be a little interested in this, but can't imagine that much because they work with real scans of real people's teeth all the time. I'm gonna get rid of this lower lip. Yeah, that's better. Right, interesting. Just how that is not in line with lips, really. Um, like Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy and Studio 4C Batman anthology movie. Studio 4C Batman anthology movie. Is that an animated one? Die Atlas? Buck teeth Neo with nerdy glasses and a pocket protector. Nice. What images am I using for reference? I'm not really using any images for reference right now, but just because his teeth are not going to be that much in focus, I'm just wanting them to look correct. It's just as in the right place, you know, in general. Yeah, I'm not really looking at reference for his teeth. Because I don't think, again, anyone's going to really be able to see that much detail of them in the final print. Because, like I said, you know, you're gonna have a barely that amount of view of it. You know, I mean, it's gonna be about it. So I just think proper alignment and arrangement will be sufficient. Oops, come on. Yeah, the animated one. Okay. Studio 4C. So wait, is that Batman anthology movie you're talking about? Is that Mask of the Phantasm? That one's freaking amazing. Like they should make that a live action film. That was awesome. Like it's just a great film. It's a great story, regardless if it's animated or if it was live action. It's just a phenomenal story, and just great, just all together. It's like classic movie. And the arrangement they did of Danny Elfman's music for the Batman theme, that whew, phenomenal. So if you haven't listened to that soundtrack, just listen to the Batman soundtrack from just the Batman theme from the animated movie Mask of the Phantasm. Amazing. They have a choir and orchestra and everything just kind of swell at the right moments and it just crescendos. It's just freaking amazing. Just the most epic, one of the most epic renditions of the Batman theme, if not probably the most ever. It's such an underrated film. Like people who know it love it. People who've never seen it have no idea what they're missing. Like you don't even think about it as being an animated film, really, when you start watching it. It's just a great story. It's very interesting. Again, not perfect, of course, but pretty damn near perfect. If you've never seen it, watch it. Trust me, you'll thank me. And it's really not for kids either, by the way. It's animated, but it's really not for children. Like it's definitely for adults. Um, and the voice actors, I mean, it's Kevin Conroy is like the most. Kevin Conroy is the voice of Batman. Like none of the actors have even got close to the power and the masculinity and the intensity that Kevin Conroy brings to Batman. Like he is the voice of Batman. I can't I can't even entertain the idea of anyone else's voice really. I almost would just would I almost wish they would just voice over all the actors who've ever played Batman and just plug in Kevin Conroy's voice. It's, it would work so much better, so much more intimidating and just right, just powerful. That one is amazing too. I love the movie, but I'm talking about the one which is similar to the Animatrix. Oh, is that the one that's like the Japanese? Like it's a Japanese Batman. I mean, it's not in Japanese. I don't think most of it isn't. But he goes into like feudal Japan, right? Like there's weird time travel thing, cultural change thing. That one where he's like ninja. It's like Ninja Batman, I think it's what it's called, or Batman Ninja or something. It was good. I remember it was good. I actually bought it on Blu-ray years ago when it came out. Is that the one you're thinking of, Dialis? Zero Lin. Hey, dude, love your Velociraptors, dude. Awesome stream too. Thank you. Thanks, man. Yeah, probably gonna be making some more Raptors for some of the staff and crew from the new Jurassic World. As little mementos, you know, or gifts, that kind of stuff. So a buddy of mine worked on it again, and he often has been nice enough to commission me to make some exclusive stuff for him and for the directors. So hopefully I'll be doing some more dinosaurs and I can eventually share those with you guys. Love doing dinosaurs. I really need to do some others. Like I have some great ceratopsian sculptures around here that Dave Silva, I think is his last name, Silva, yeah. David Silva did, and he did some really. Actually, I have one right here. This thing's amazing. It's articulated like crazy, and it's a Pachyrhinosaurus. Awesome paint job, and just the sculptural details, bananas. This thing is awesome. So I mean, it's like, dude, I'm just promoting another artist because his work is phenomenal. But you can find this stuff online. Creative Beast Studios, I think. But just the work on this is awesome. Yeah, just pretty cool stuff, dude. It's like heavy too. But great reference too, just for having a three-dimensional model, you know, in front of you. So anyway, I have this just sitting here on my desk. Minimize this again. But yeah, I want to do some. Probably want to do a couple ceratopsians. I think I might do at least one or two, and then move on to some other stuff, some other dinos, some other carnivores. So I just my raptors get so much attention, and it's fine. But I feel like I just need to broaden my dinosaur work, so that I'm not just pigeonholed and be like, oh, he just does raptors. Like, no, I can do anything. I just am known for my raptors. And I also just took a while with them because I put in a lot of time into them, and so I think people see it and they freak out over it. That's the thing too I've noticed with myself though, is like after really detailed, crazy sculpt, it's like I kind of get burned out from that work, and I can't really do something related to it for a long time afterwards, depending on the level of intensity of the work. And it's kind of a shame because I feel like there's times where like mentally I want to, but my body's almost just like no, or I don't know I don't know how else to describe it, but it's like you're mentally tired of something, or it's so exhausting, or it was so exhausting or so painful that your brain is just like, nope, do something else, anything else, but don't touch that anymore for a while. And so there's stuff I need to get back to that has had that effect on me, and now it's just like I just need to get back to it. Checking on the corgi. It's interesting, the incisors, canines, they look almost vampire-ish when it's just that kind of This is kind of that view. Um, any chance for an Endoraptor? I mean, I did the bust actually for Colin Trevorrow and Jay Bayona and I think there was some other producer that got one. If you go on my site, you can see some photos of just what I did. It'll never be. I can't sell it. Obviously, it's not. It's not my. It's not mine to sell. I made it for them, but there's some photos of it just as reference. So you can go on my site and check that out. Maybe someday I'll do a whole one just for the shits and giggles, you know. But can't really do anything with the bust right now because that's totally different commission. But you can see all of my, not all, a lot of my work there. It's my site. But yeah, honestly, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Endoraptor design. And it's no, you know, it's no offense to those who worked on it and designed it. I know Glenn McIntosh is a good friend and one of the guys who really worked on it. But it's not my preference. You know, it's not my taste. I actually, if I had to pick between that or the Indominus Rex, I like the Indominus Rex a lot more. I don't know. I guess the skull shape and the jaw like width and the way the teeth are arranged and all that. I think it just works better on the Indominus Rex, and the Endoraptor feels too. It feels too amalgamated, right? It just feels too like clustered together, different things, and it just feels weird. You know what I mean? Like it's a good movie monster. But I don't find its proportions, especially in the face, as attractive. It doesn't feel as strong to me as design as the Indominus Rex for a fictional dinosaur. But I think I like the Indominus more also because it looks more like an Allosaurus. Like that's really, and I know Glenn really loves Allosaurus a lot, and I do too. So I feel like, and I like the Indominus Rex design better than the Allosaurus we saw on Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. The one we saw in Battle Big Rock, I guess it's very similar design, but even so, I feel like certain things, like the way the crest comes up on the brow, that I guess nasal ridge. I'm not sure what the proper term is for that. Um, it just feels like it's a little, I don't know, it's a little too like distinct and separate from the face. It doesn't feel like it blends together well with the skull, in my opinion. Um, but there's an artist that I really admire, and I need to buy some of his works, some of his prints. John Gersh. Let's show you guys this really quick. John Gersh's work, if you guys don't know, his work is amazing, and it's paintings he's done years ago for National Geographic and the Smithsonian. It's been featured all over like the world, but let me show you quick. John Gersh. I have one of these prints. I have this print actually already, and here I just need to frame it. But it's awesome. So let's see here, view file. All right, so this is the piece that even here, I guess the brow ridge thing crest looks stands out a little bit, but I don't know the style. And this isn't like even my ideal, but I really love this look of the Allosaurus here. I think just proportions, and there's like three different species of Allosaurus apparently. Like there's three big ones, three different ones. Each one's actually smaller than the other. It's like there's a large one, medium, and small, that are like considered like, you know, of the same species or genus or whatever the right categorization is. But yeah, his work is just, he does so much like photoreal painting. Like the render quality of this is just amazing. And this is stuck in my brain since I was a kid. Like I remember seeing this when I was maybe barely 10, probably like 8 or 7, I think was when this was made, when it was published. And he's got some other incredible pieces. Let me see if I can find you one other one. Just type in. There's this awesome one of a T-Rex stalking a family of I think Edmontosauruses or some sort of duckbill species of dinosaur. This thing is awesome too. Again, just the quality of like the light and the shadows cast. You know, at certain points, it almost looks like you're looking into a diorama, like at a museum. You know what I mean? Um, and I think this is actually you see a line here of light because this is taken from a book. I think this was photographed literally from a book, so that's why you have this like large white reflective area. But just I mean, just everything about this piece is awesome. I think it's just beautiful and creepy, very cool. Um, and then there's this piece is like super famous. A lot of people have seen this. This is on the cover of books, and this was on a lot of posters. I remember seeing this at the Smithsonian a lot as a kid. Very cool. Also, like near photoreal in a lot of ways. This probably isn't the best image quality of it, though. I think it's kind of pretty degraded. Um, this is another one. This looks like a photo again. Like this to me is this has always blown my mind how real this one looks, and yet it's not. Uh, just the quality of light and reflections, you know, right here. It almost looks like a plastic statue, you know, or toy or something. It's just like this area right here. Awesome. Um, and then it's like, you know, you got more ambient light down here, but all of this is just like, wow, just phenomenal. And even like he's got the depth of focus. You know what I mean? That's the other cool thing. You don't see a lot of paintings like that where he really feels like it was like a photographic quality where the body is out of focus, but then the head and everything else here is really sharp. It's again just and it's painted. You know, it's awesome. It's just phenomenal work. And one more. This is one of my favorites as a kid. Deinonychus attacking Iguanodon. This is blurry too, but still, I mean, it almost looks like a photo. Again, like just his way of painting light and how it even like there's like a feeling of like exposure of light passing through the fronds of these leaves of trees and then hitting the camera lens, and like it's all painted, but it looks incredible. So yeah, just John Gersh, an amazing artist that really moved me and inspired me a lot as a kid. Like and there's so many more paintings. You can look up his stuff. It's just bananas. It's so good. Anyway, sorry, yeah. What is the chat saying? How long it took you start making money, character artist? Hard to get a job, and I don't know whether to change my career. I wouldn't like it, but I feel like it's difficult to enter the industry. The headway distribution is off, yeah. Like the teeth. Most like, yeah, I mean, holy brontosaurus. Dinosaur exposes vacancy, yeah, a big claw. It almost looks real. Yeah, they almost do look real. It's amazing. Disney dinosaur movie. Yeah, Disney dinosaur movie. Disney dinosaur movie would have been great if they didn't have them speak at all and they didn't have the lemurs. Like, I remember the first preview they released, the first trailer for Disney's dinosaur, and there was just a fly through with this pterodactyl or whatever flying through that picked up the egg in this riverway, and just flew. And there was no talking dinosaurs, no anthropomorphic anything. It was just all like National Geographic directed, and that's what people want. I think that's what a lot of people want. Who always wanted. And it would have been cool if they would have done the whole thing like the movie Bear. That was Disney back in the day. The Bear or like Benji the Hunted. I remember that was a movie I loved as a kid. And it's all animals doing their thing, tightly directed, good music that helps you guide you in a sense of what to think and feel. And there's like no narration, no talking animals, no pandering to children. It's just here's what's happening, and it's as if you just were, you know, privy to watching something happen in nature, but with a very tight direction. So I don't know. I just wish they would have done that with the Disney dinosaur movie. But again, executives are too cowardly, or people are too pushy, or whatever, to do bold, artistic, you know, more artistic ideas, and push them forward rather than, you know, doing what's safe and pandering to children and families. And it almost feels like when you do that so much consistently over decades, over generations, you're kind of dumbing down the audience almost. Like they say audiences are smart, and I know they are, But when you create family films that have a certain level of stupidity, like that's the high bar, is like this level of stupidity and like pandering, you kind of create their taste. You kind of help them, you help a lot of general masses kind of have that taste, and it becomes bad. Like, and then that's what they like, and it's garbage. And they may not. It's like almost like eating, right? You condition someone to eat unhealthy food, their brain gets used to that, so then that's what they like. So you give them something healthy because it doesn't taste the same as the unhealthy stuff. They don't want to eat the healthy stuff, and so then it creates a downward spiral, right? And I feel like artistically, it's the same kind of thing. The brain still operates the same way. What you put in, if it's trash, and you're constantly saturated with garbage, you're not really almost going to be able to identify or appreciate quality when you're exposed to it because you've been so conditioned to appreciate garbage. So I feel like there's a certain level of like responsibility in entertainment and writers and directors to put out, to elevate, right, to uplift, to edify, to kind of educate an audience to appreciate better work, like great work. And that's why I always want to do great work, is because while the lesser than might be acceptable, it's not acceptable to me. And I know that it's a disservice to the audience as well, because you're just making something that could have been so much better, but for whatever reason you let something get in the way, or you're letting time or money or someone else dictate the quality level, and then everything suffers for that. So anyway, in an ideal world, I would try to be unencumbered from powers that be, and just have as much free reign as possible to make great art and great storytelling. So that's where the idea is, like, to try to make something as independently as possible and figure out the means. There's always a way. There's always people with money. You just got to find the right people to invest. But so when people start focusing on the limitations rather than possibilities, that's when they defeat themselves. And that's something I'm always advocating against, is don't think about, oh, but there's this roadblock and this roadblock. No, just realize other people could figure it out. Other people can make it happen, so you can too. And usually, sadly, there's a lot of people who have trashier projects and less lofty goals, and they succeed. So if they can do it, we can do it. It's just hard work. It's thinking outside the box. It's networking. It's doing whatever you can to get from point A to point B and not compromising. But it's also challenging too, because eventually it's like, get something out or nothing out. Like, you're waiting for perfection, and in the meantime, time is passing by, and the opportunity to make something rather than nothing is also passing by. So there's eventually, sometimes there has to be some sort of compromise. But anyway, sorry, just lamenting. Like, I don't know, I feel like they could be a little bit bigger, maybe? I don't know. Maybe they're fine. Oh, okay, so sorry. Ryan was asking, Ryan, what is it? Ryan C was asking about how long it took me to start making money. Um, This is a funny way to phrase it, but yeah, I know what you mean. Am I a fan of James Gurney? Yeah, I like his work. I'm not as big a fan of Dinotopia. Like, I'm not like, oh my god, Dinotopia. Like, it never really connected with me. But I like appreciate his craft, and his artistry is great. You know, I mean, like, it's beautiful work. Yeah, for sure. I'm just not as big a fan of his, I guess, just because it was cute and fun, and there's like a nice fantasy element, and they're realistic looking dinosaurs, but there's still not that level like photoreal quality. And I was always like a weird fanatical fan of like photoreal rendering, photoreal work. You know, and I always aspired to draw as close to a black and white photo as I could a lot as a kid. I never really liked stylized stuff that much as a child, oddly. I was such a weird nerd. Like, I loved science, I loved nature, I loved getting to the root and the core of answers to questions I had about why and how. That's why I majored in biology. I think, like, subconsciously, that's a big part of like biology / pre-med medicine, wanting to have purpose and meaning in my life. So I went after medicine originally. And so there's a certain level of fanaticism for detail and for accuracy and realism. So that's why I didn't fall in love with a lot of things that I think a lot of other kids did. A lot of stylized things I was like, meh. And a lot of things that were human-centric, meh. I like animals better. I always liked animals more as a kid. Never cared for G.I. Joe, but I enjoyed like Tailspin, right? That's stylized, of course, but it's like different because it fits right into the category of like, you know, classic cartoon. Animaniacs. Anyway, yeah. But so I'll get to your question about making money in the industry in 1 second. Sorry. But yeah, James Gurney's work is great. I like his stuff. I do. I'm not like a huge fan of his, but I mean, he's a really nice guy. I met him. Like, he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. And you know, I think it was his grandfather invented or patented the gurney. That's why they're called gurneys. You know, like hospital beds with wheels. Like, that's why they're called gurneys. Like, James Gurney's grandfather, I think, or great great grandfather, invented that, patented that. That's crazy. So, little interesting fact. They had lemurs just to flex the fur tech. Yeah, right. Exodus. Oi! What's up? Sounds like a really under-tapped market. Animated National Geographic. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is, right? Like, that's what they tried to do with Walking with Dinosaurs, but it was kind of terrible, in my opinion. I mean, I know it was very successful financially, again, but quality was just... especially the design of certain animals on that show were just... all conditioning stuff. Stylized has soul. Mind blown. Anyway, let's go back up here. So yeah, so how long did it take me to make a living? Basically, is what you're asking. Is how long did it take me to make a living doing art? A while. It wasn't like the easiest thing by any means. You know, there were years where I was still after college when I dropped out my junior year, and I was just like, dude, I'm not gonna pay thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands of dollars more for an art education for software that's moving so fast and changing so often and developing that by the time I'm done with a 4-year degree, the software would be dramatically different, and so we'd have to upgrade it. So, and most professors and most schools at the time wouldn't even, you know, by the time you're out, the software and everything would be so different. You just blew thousands of dollars to have to watch tutorials on YouTube to tell you how to use the new software. The software you started first year is now so different. So anyway, I realized that early on. I was like, there's no point for me to continue going to a traditional 4-year college or even an art school, really. I was thinking about it, but then I was like, this doesn't make sense. To get into debt, really. To get into debt to get a job that is challenging to make money in the first place. Like, the arts are hard no matter what. I mean, it's hard now, even still, honestly, especially in LA, where it's competitive, and there's also like a lot less opportunity here now for consistency than what's available in Canada or the UK or Shanghai, like almost anywhere but LA, sadly. It's challenging. It's hard. It's really hard. And it takes, again, networking. It takes good work. But like, so anyway, how long did it take me? I mean, years, I guess, really. Let's see here. Let's see everything put together again. Oops. Took years. So there was definitely a while in my life where I was doing everything else to make ends meet. You know, I was waitering while I was doing art and figuring out my craft and getting better. And then I was teaching. Do your best to intersect what you do for making money with either time being available for you to do your craft and get better at it, or to somehow be paid to work on your craft. There were times where I worked waitering, but then I also did like in-home nursing care for a while after I worked at the hospital for 2 years. So for those who don't know, I used to work in an ER for a couple years, and then that was when I was in college, so I had no life. I was like studying and working at the hospital full time. And then I eventually was like, I don't want to do medicine in the end, but I still wanted to help people. So I got out of the ER and then dropped out of college and then was writing a book. I'm still actually like going to make it probably a film eventually. That was the original idea. It was a film. Really fantastic, epic adventure film, near future stuff. But so I was writing that book and I was working on my art while I was doing in-home nursing care. So there'd be a lot of times where the patient, elderly folk I was taking care of, after they'd eat, they want to take a nap, or they'd want to rest for a while, they want to watch the History Channel, whatever, and you're just there to kind of babysit, like just to hang out with them. And half the time they would just want to do their thing, and they really weren't interested in talking that much. Some of them were even mute, like they were just mute, they couldn't even speak. So they were just, they wouldn't ask me to do much more than like make them their dinner or their food or help them to the restroom or help them get ready for bed. But then there was a lot of time where I was just hanging out. And they're like, read a book or do whatever you want to do. Just sit here and make sure they don't hurt themselves. So often I'd be working on my art then, right? Or writing, like just bring my laptop along or even a notepad and just write, or work on the art. And yeah, that was a lot of my time, where I'd be taking care of elderly folk. And then when they were taking their nap or going to bed and I had to wait for their children or loved ones to come home or my replacement for the shift overnight, I could do anything. I mean, I could, as long as I'm there, making sure they're okay, I could read, I could write, I could do whatever. So, that's what a lot of time I did. And it helped a bit, for sure. It's like making some money and honing my craft. And then of course, as soon as I was done, get home, like just full on into my craft. But yeah, as an artist, when you're struggling in the beginning, when you're working hard, you've just got to do, I did landscaping, for years. Whatever. I mean, you just got to do whatever you can to make money, like legally. Honestly, that's it. It's not an easy path though, because once you get to a certain point, this is the thing. Like, I don't know you or your work, of course, but my guess is possibly your work is not quite at the level yet that it should be or needs to be in order to get a job that you really want. I mean, it's not an attack or put down or anything. It's just probably reality, I'm guessing. And that's not, again, it's not necessarily like your fault, or it's not even that you're lazy or anything like that. It just means that maybe you haven't had enough time to pour into your work yet to get to the level that you need to be at in order to really compete with like people that are in the ranks right now that are working in the industry, because that's your competition ultimately in the end. It's not direct competition, but it's the people who are going after jobs, right? And they're the people who have the work to show that they can do the work. That's, so you got to have at the end of the day, it comes down to this, like you have to have a killer portfolio or at least great pieces to show. So like what I've always told students before, it's about time. Yeah, time is a big factor, but ultimately it comes down to this, right? There's always this 3 bullet points I always give to people who are looking to get into the industry. And this is from personal experience and what worked for me, and I know it works for other people. And it's boiling it down to, there's a lot of other random factors and variables to this, but the 3 points are always be excellent at what you do, right? So no matter what it is you're going into the entertainment industry doing, if it's a visual thing or an audio thing or something you can show or have samples of, you have to be excellent, right? You have to be phenomenal. Just be great at what you're doing. Even if it's just a few things or it's like one style or whatever, but just try to be one of the best. You know what I mean? Just make excellent work that you'd be proud and confident enough to show someone who could hire you if they saw it, they asked to see it. So make sure that it's at that level. And look at people who are working in the industry. Look at what's in their portfolio, what's on their ArtStation, what's on their IG, their Instagram, whatever. Look at what is work that they are doing that's some of their best work, right? And then try to match that. Not verbatim, don't copy what they're doing, but the same level of quality, of course, the same polish, right? The same orderly, like understanding good topology, understanding that you have to have your edge loops in the right place on the face. There's certain technical things you have to know so that you can function in a pipeline and that you're not delivering something that's useless, that's unusable, in a pipeline. Because a lot of people learn ZBrush and they learn how to sculpt because they think like clay, and that's how I thought and approached it at first. I understand clay, my brain can wrap around that. Maya was more intimidating in the beginning, and it was more menus and vertices and lines and edges, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but like I understand clay, so like ZBrush was my gateway drug, right, into the entertainment industry, basically. But once you can understand some of the more finer points of the technical points of the craft, that's what's really going to help you be excellent. Because like With ZBrush, it can almost give the illusion, and it kind of almost helps people. And this is not a knock on ZBrush at all. It's almost a compliment to it in some ways. It lets people focus on the art so much that they don't have to worry so much about the technical. But we still have certain technical constraints, even with like something like Unreal or other, real-time rendering engines that will let you have almost unlimited polygons. Like, just be like, we can just put in millions or billions of polygons and it doesn't matter. That's fine for like static meshes and things that will never have to deform or animate. But when it comes to characters, which is what a lot of people want to do, topology really matters a lot. And so does UVs, so does understanding where to place your seams. Certain things that are just, they're boring, they're technical, and they're not really sexy or exciting or engaging really, but they're necessities. It's just like eating well, right? Or like working out. Eventually, hopefully you can enjoy working out, or hopefully you can like listen to music that gets you excited and gives you some energy and motivation. But that's sort of the thing with like doing UVs or like retopologizing something, or just understanding the parameters that you have to work within in order to move forward, right? To be successful and move through the industry and move up a chain, or at least progress in your own artistic venture. So sorry, what time is it now? Okay, so let's make sure. So understanding technical points is part of what makes someone excellent at what they do, aside from the veneer, the outside, the surface, right? The outer polish of something. So be excellent. Be excellent at what you do. Number 2 is, of course, be good with people, right? You have to understand how to dialogue with somebody. You have to be likable. Really, it's kind of what it comes down to. Likability is a huge thing. That will open doors for you. That may not be the direct door to like, oh, here is the job I want. ILM. Let me walk through that door because I'm a likable person and have a good portfolio. You still have to, of course, network. You have to meet people. Hopefully when we get back to normal, whenever that might be, exactly when we're all back to normal, we're practically there. You have to make sure that you're able to network well with people, right? That you have work that will draw them in if it's on display somewhere, and then be able to dialogue with them and be someone that they can relate to, that they enjoy being around, that makes them feel comfortable, makes them laugh, or at least smile. You have to have some reason to enjoy speaking with you, of course, and you have to be able to network well, right? So being good with people, soft skills is what they call it, right? Interpersonal skills, being good with people is just key, right? Kind of like even the way like celebrities have to kind of be, in a sense, like you're your own sort of celebrity in that sense. I mean, like if you're having to engage with people to get in somewhere, that's networking. That's really what it is. It's schmoozing, right? It's just getting closer to people and being good with what you do, and having interesting conversation. And it's sort of an ambiguous thing. Be good with people, but that's a big point. That's point number 2, is be great at networking. Be good at having conversations not about what you love, not about what you do only. Like, passion is definitely visible and contagious, and it can help you to be passionate about what you want to do, to be excited about it. But also having the knowledge of the reality of it too. It's show business, right? There's a business side to it. So there's a dollar value attached to everything, and other things attached to those, like interpolitics. Unfortunately, like stuff that is not always fun or even like great, but it exists. It's reality. So understanding how to navigate that jungle, right, of people, social situations, placing yourself in the right place at the right time, going to the right kind of events, finding out who's going to be at those events at what time, where they're going to be speaking, where's the backstage area that you might be able to catch them and say, hey, blah, 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 I'm so-and-so. I love your work. You've been my hero. You've inspired me, blah, blah, blah. Here's my card. Or like, do you have 5 seconds? Let's grab a beer. Or, like figuring out those social dynamics is huge, like tremendously useful. And it's extremely esoteric. It's like specific to each person, both on the receiving end and from your end, meaning like everyone's going to have different heroes. Everyone's going to have different motivations and desires for what they want to do with their life, where they want to go. So it's like very personal, right? So you have to figure that out for yourself. But the general parameter is, be great with people. Like, learn to be good with people. If you're quiet or too introverted, too shy, and you don't have to be extroverted, but you have to be at least be able to dialogue confidently, look people in the eye, give them a good confident handshake, smile, be a positive person, somebody that they like being around, that they're happy to see, that they'll remember maybe because you have something, even just smiling, just being a positive person, that's helpful. But that becomes also, you have to be authentic, right? You can't fake it. Like, if you're faking it, they're going to see through that. It's going to seem like bullshit, and it's not going to be attractive at all. It's actually it's going to work against you. It's going to be negative. It's going to be repulsive. So people don't want to meet someone who's like a shill, right? Who's like shilling themselves. right? Or who's just trying to, who seems so clearly desperate that like, I just want to know you because I want a job from you. Like nobody likes that person. Actually, they're like, get away from me, please. Like, eh. So there's that, and that's the second point. Is be good with people, be likable, find some charisma, right? Become charismatic. If you're not, figure out how to be your own style of charisma, like your own charismatic energy. And the last point is luck. So be excellent at what you do, be good with people, and be lucky. But what I really mean by luck is like you can make your own luck, right? Like being prepared, like luck favors the prepared. That's the phrase, right? So being prepared is if you have those 2 points in line, you're excellent at what you do and you're good with people, the luck will be just positioning yourself to be lucky. In other words, be ready for that elevator pitch. If you're literally in an elevator with somebody and they're like, you get in the conversation or you make a funny note or something and they ask you or you ask them, what do you do or whatever. And then from there, you guys exchange information or they say like, oh, I'd love to see what you do. Or like, oh, I work for this company. We're actually looking for people like you, or we're looking to hire, or we're looking for an animator. We're looking for a sculptor, blah, blah, blah. You know, once that little door opens, you need to be ready to show them your portfolio off your phone, or if you have an iPad with you or a card, and have good presentation too, right? That's again part of it. Part of being lucky is also being prepared, and being prepared. Being lucky is being prepared. Um, it's all about just performing then at that point. It's almost like a performance, really, and it's just being on, right? It's like being ready to kind of deliver what you need to say or what they're asking you to you know, teach them on or tell them about yourself and your work, and then it's out of your hands. You know, then you've done all you can, and then it's just a matter of, you know, nailing an interview. Like 99% of the jobs I've ever gotten in the industry was through people recommending me, though. That's the other thing. Again, from being likable, from being generally likable. I'm not saying I'm the most likable person ever, but I just mean, you know, having those other points in line so that when I met someone who liked me and they were looking for someone to fill a position that they had, or they wanted me to come into the company because they know that I'm of value and they may not even have a position open, but they made a spot for me because they're like, we could really use you and I know the company will benefit. So someone higher up told the person below them, who's my boss or whatever, be like, dude, hire this kid, you know, just usher me in. That all came about though from the first 2 points, right? Being excellent at what I did and being good with people. And be genuine, be kind, be passionate, be fun, be somebody that they want to have around, right? Like, let them say for you, we're lucky to have you. Like, oh my God, like you're somebody we never knew we needed, or we needed and we found you. Like, that's what you want. So I've been blessed and lucky to have been recommended pretty much for nearly every job I've ever had for this industry. And that's a huge compliment. That's really, I'm humbled and grateful for that. And it makes life, I want to say easier, but a little in that department, I guess, sort of, I shouldn't say less stressful, because there's times where then like the gigs are done and you're out of work and you've got to go hunt for work, right? But often just even having a good network of friends then who work in the industry, you can pull on them by just saying, hey, blank, so and so, I'm looking for work. I need to line something up for next month, you know, or for like the next 6 months or whatever. Do you know anybody who's hiring? Do you know anybody who knows somebody? Because then you start realizing that the higher up in any industry you get, as far as like more successful and more networked, this tinier and smaller and tighter the rings get. Think of it like almost like a pyramid. The more those people know each other, and the more they talk, and the more risk you take then too. Like, you don't want to burn any bridges, right? Or at least know the bridges you're going to burn and make sure that you don't need to ever cross those bridges again. But ideally, the point is to leave on a positive note, you know, between anybody you're interacting with, especially if they're higher up on the chain. Yeah. So anyway, that's a long explanation for when did I start making money? I mean, I started when I was younger, when I was just doing like freelance gigs, but it wasn't like I was living off of that. It was just extra cash, right? I was like discovered at a cafe when I was working on a personal art piece, and just putting one of the many pieces I like to sort of put my heart and soul into. Actually, I'll show you the piece I was working on, that got me, that someone saw over my shoulder, and they were like, "That's really good work. What do you do?" And so this is a perfect like connection to what your question is. Let me get the right window open. And it's like a video, I guess, of something, making a video at this point, but because I don't really just have the image itself available. But let me navigate navigate to it. So I was still am, a huge Echo the Dolphin fan. Echo the Dolphin was this video game back in the 90s, for those who don't know. Early 90s, created by a friend of mine, Ed Annunziata, a visionary creative in the gaming industry. And he created this, this great video game series that I want to make into a feature film. And we still talk about it now, and I'm still looking to create some pieces that will be like pitch pieces for that. But this is one of the ideas I had for it, just a visual piece. But before it got to this finished polish, right, this giant eel chasing Echo, our protagonist, through these pillars, it started off as a sketch, and the sketch was then brought into I guess, Photoshop. So I painted over it, and while I was working on it in Photoshop. So these are here's the original sketch idea, right? This original thumbnail. And then it developed into a little bit more, like I took that idea, it was just a rough idea, and then I'm like, all right, and I think I want a little bit more dynamism here, a little bit more dynamic angle, and even that's like, meh, it's still just, it's getting there, but it's not quite there. And then this was like a quick and dirty, just slap together concept. But near the end of it is where someone saw it, and I still think it's really not that great at all. I mean, it's just a photoshopped, kit bashed thing, and that's where it was. Like, it was just somewhere around here is where it kind of held up, like right where it's color graded it. And they were seeing me work on some of the pillars or something here, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then it eventually came into this point. Or maybe I was even working on the render. I can't remember exactly. I'm pretty sure I was still in Photoshop at the time because I hadn't finished it yet. Yeah, I think I was still in the Photoshop phase when I was just tight on one of those pillars, and that's where they saw it. So it was like right around there. And so that's what they saw, and they were just like, oh, this lady came over, this nice woman, and said, hey, hi. She's like, that's really good work. What do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a starving artist. I'm working on personal pieces right now, and I teach at a community center for underprivileged kids in the inner city. Like I lived in the suburbs, and I was like hanging out at this cafe downtown Lancaster, and I was working at this church's community center where there was this sort of just place for kids to come after school. So we had a bunch of staff members. We'd all help them with their homework, and they could give them like dinner kind of or whatever, and then I would help them with their homework as well. But then I'd also teach art. So I did this whole little art class. I had this big classroom with chalkboard and my computer, and I could like put on music and then just show people like drawing techniques, color theory, like really basic essential stuff for art. And that was my gig at the time. That was it. That was my job. And so she was like, well, we're hiring. I work for this company called Chiyoda America. We do laminate surface design. Doesn't sound very exciting, but it's cool because we get to send you all over the world. So like for the first like month or like 3 weeks or whatever, you get to go to Europe, and we send you to big trade shows. They're like interior design trade shows where you get to learn what all the hottest woods and stones and color palettes are for this next year or two. Like what's trending in laminated surface design. Well, laminated surface design is just basically laminated material, like they take photos or scans of real stone, real wood, all these real materials, giant pieces of all of those, giant bed scanner, scan it all with a real, huge scanner, and then you edit those images in the computer with a proprietary Photoshop-like program that they had, which was so annoying, but a lot like Photoshop in the end. And so you'd edit the images to have very different color variations, different texture variations, create height maps from those. So then when you rub your hand over certain laminate surfaces, you feel the texture of the wood, faux texture, you feel the texture of the stone. And it would look photoreal because they literally take photos of them, and then, we'd manipulate that. So it became a really boring job quickly once it was outside of the travel, but the travel was awesome. So I was lucky that they sent me to Europe. I went to Belgium and Germany and London, and then finished off in Vegas, which was like, I hate Vegas. But, big trade shows. And that was sort of my big exposure. My first official job as an artist, as a professional grade artist. I worked there for just about a year, a little under a year, I think. And then I bailed because it was killing my soul. Because it was like a cubicle. It was like the Matrix, like when Neo, Thomas A. Anderson is sitting there at the computer in like gray dystopian world, just gray everything, just computers and white and black and gray and just like, oh, kill me. And that's all it was, right? Because they wanted your color vision to be on target. So everything's gray, everything's boring and dead. I had to like buy some plants to give some life to my area, my cubicle. Oh man. But anyway, the travel was awesome. And that was my first real big gig. And then from there, I was getting so bogged down with the mundanity of it that I wound up eventually leaving and taking time off to just pour in my savings and time into ZBrush workshops, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was one of the artists, and it was 3D engineers, whatever you want to call him, Ryan from Pixologic at the time had left Pixologic and founded his own training site, and I became friends with more so his assistant, who wound up, ironically, coincidentally, being from the same state that I was currently living in. I was living in Lancaster County, and his assistant, William Dentistry, grew up and lived, I think, in York, if I'm not mistaken, or Allentown. So anyway, a neighboring town to where I grew up. Maybe it was Pittsburgh, I don't remember. So not too far, though, but Harrisburg. It was Harrisburg, I think. So yeah, so it's like a town over, one town over, two towns over, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So we grew up in the same general area, and so that immediately connected us a little bit and bonded us. We had some common language, right, from where we grew up in Pennsylvania, and that led to just becoming friends, and just having a certain amount of shorthand, and that led us to that kind of, again, that gave me some favorability with him, I guess you could say. There's immediately, because there's common ground, right? And we had common ground in a lot of areas, a lot of common same tastes in like movies and interests, and so there's a lot of those general same areas that aligned, so we became fast friends. That led to him then pitching me to Ryan to be one of the moderators for their classes. So I wound up paying for 2 classes only, and by the end of the second class, I had a job working with them. So now that was where I really felt that I was scoring, right? Because it's like, yeah, I'm only getting paid like whatever, it was like $15 an hour, or whatever it was, $12 an hour or something. It was like $15 an hour, just decent at that time as a student. Really just, you can almost say like a fresh graduate kind of their a couple classes. It wasn't even a full program at all, but I picked it up fast enough that I could help, like be a moderator, help kind of co-teach a little bit, like help students with basic questions I knew the answers to. But I was still learning a lot too. But the great thing was, now I had free access to their entire catalog of all the leading experts that would come to teach ZBrush and other 3D, things here and there. So I was being paid to work for them, of course, and do their marketing and management, like social media management, that kind of stuff, but also being paid to learn, and being paid to learn from the best people in the industry. So right there, that was like a genius move on my part, I would say, not to brag. It was a great move for anybody to do, to be able to position yourself like that. But it was a natural flow. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to get in here and do this. It was just, wow, I saw the opportunity and I took it. Getting paid to learn how to get better at the software that I want to do for now, for a living. I'm like, what? Like, this is awesome. Like, this is great, So it was really overlapping, making a living with learning and getting better at my craft, to then eventually use that to springboard to move out here. And then before I moved out here, I got a job with a big theater out there in Pennsylvania and started doing like set design and 3D printing scaled models of all the sets that we did for the theater. And then that that served its time. I did a lot of great work there, great people there. Some not so great, but that eventually allowed me to pour my money and time into networking out here in LA. And that's where then I networked more, made good connections, and started getting jobs, and wound up started working at different studios and working for different freelance clients and private commissions, and started amassing my 3D printing army, or my 3D printing lab, I should say. And started making other friends, and their friends suggested, oh, maybe you should 3D print that, maybe you should try this. And then that started leading to like, oh, I have a 3D printer, I should experiment more, I should try this, I should try that. And then went to, I forget, I think it was when I was still at the theater, I went to New York Comic Con, and I went to New York Comic Con, I got a free pass, I think, because of Pixologic. I forget, I think so. Then I met people from Wacom, and I started chatting with the right person at the right time by coincidence. They asked what I did, they asked to see my work. Like I said, I showed them on my phone. They were like, holy shit, this is amazing. Would you like to demo for us at the next Comic Con? And I think it was either that was at San Diego or maybe it's SIGGRAPH, and then I went to New York Comic Con. I think that's how it went. Yeah. So then I wound up, yeah, SIGGRAPH. So I met them at SIGGRAPH, excuse me, and then at Wacom offered me to demo for them in New York Comic Con. So I was like, hell yeah. So that was like, super exciting and fun. Of course, they paid for everything, which was great. So all I had to do was just get there. And I lived in Pennsylvania, so it was a 2-hour train ride. Just chill there, and then we'll do some artwork on the way, and then arrive, throw my bag in the hotel or the Airbnb, and then we'll walk into New York Comic Con and have a great time. Demo, just sculpt live. And so that was great. And that started a great friendship relationship with myself and people at Wacom that I still maintain to this day. I love those people over there, really good people. Great products. I'm working on a Wacom Cintiq Mobile Studio Pro right now. And yeah, so it's just about positioning yourself to be at the right place at the right time, and then using your time, your money, and your wits to push yourself forward. But the burden is on you. Like it's hard work. It's life work. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, it's not just like traditional, like put in your hours during the day and then you get what you want afterwards. No, you've got to kind of, in the nicest way possible, fight for what you want, work for what you want, because no one is really going to hand it to you. Like, I had doors open for me because I was excellent at what I did. I was good with people, had good conversation. I'm a genuine person. Like, I'm never two-faced. I don't portray to be myself here in one way and then I act differently off camera. I mean, obviously I don't say certain things publicly because it's private or whatever, but a lot of but like obviously authenticity, it can be seen, it can be felt, right? Like it's a nonverbal, a lot of it too, or it's in the not directly in the words, but in many other aspects that you can see that. And so that's just how I live my life, and that's how I pursued what I wanted to do, and that's how I got to where I'm at now, in the very short term, a short story version, which is still long. I'm sorry. But anyway, so that's how you get. I mean, that's how I got to where I am in my point in this industry, and it's different for everybody. But I think there's a lot of common threads there, and I think that it can work for that. This general 3-point plan that I give you guys, I think it can work for a lot of people. But it has to be finessed and styled into your own form, right? Your own way of going about it. And I felt like I was behind the curve when I started learning ZBrush back in 2011 or 2012, around there. But I wasn't, it just started really becoming more and more of a staple, like, mainstay standard software right around then, probably just a little bit before. So the demand was still growing, and it continues to grow as it still does today. So, don't lose hope. Don't feel like, oh, I missed out. Now it's like all the jobs are taken, or I'll never get where I want to be. No, it's but also realize, like, is this what you really want to do? And if it is, good, well, then go for it. But also realize that there's going to be a lot of times too where you're not going to be asked to design things. You're going to be asked to duplicate or replicate something that someone else designed. So there's always that too. Like, a lot of artists mistake working for Disney is thinking like, oh, I'm getting to design these cool characters and make all this stuff from my own mind or my imagination. And often that's not the case. You're often paid by numbers. It's a gig where you're told what to do, and then you just got to be the human robot and just create what they tell you to. So you've got to position yourself too, and like, do you want to be more of an area of design, concept art, or concept sculpting? You got to start making a portfolio that mirrors that, or shows that. I'm in the fence. Like, I mean, it's at this point, I mean, I really want to do film. I want to do storytelling. I don't want to just create things for anybody anymore, really. I mean, like, that's a great job, and I'll do it well forever long I need to. But I'm really moving toward telling my own stories and working on my own stuff, and doing all that behind the scenes mostly. But yeah, it still comes down to personal involvement, right? Like pouring your own energy and time off the clock into what you want to do with your future, right? What you want to do down the road. So yeah. So anyway, that's a really long explanation for. Typically, someone always comes in the chat and is like, "How do I get in the industry? How do I make a living doing this?" Well, that's my story. That's how I did it. And everyone's going to be different, though. Just like everyone in the arts is different. Everyone got to be where they are in the arts, whether they're actors, writers, directors, whatever. Everybody got there differently. Certain common threads, of course, but there's a lot of variables, a lot of variability to how people get there, and what keeps them there, or what helps them move somewhere else. If they want to do something else in the industry, or discover that their love for X really wasn't for X, it was for something else that X was maybe connected to or involved with, right? like for me, I've become good at sculpting, and I've always had a knack, I always had a proclivity, a leaning, natural leaning toward sculpting and working with clay in my hands and drawing as a child, and that was always just a natural gift or a talent that I had. But my love for that was really born out of a love for movies and storytelling and great stories, really. Whether it was a book, a video game, a movie, even music, stuff that told a great story and that moved me emotionally, but also challenged me and made me think intellectually, right? Something that gave me both the emotion and the brain interaction. That's what really sings for me. That's what really makes me soar. And that's the kind of stuff I want to produce. I don't want to produce unintelligent or just emotionally manipulative work. I want to create something that you walk away feeling and thinking a lot about and wanting to dialogue with someone else about. And those kind of films are rare. That's the thing, though, too. It's like you get those films maybe for older Spielberg. I felt like that was a lot. You saw that a lot, and Christopher Nolan has been really good at that as well. Um, I mean, I would say Peter Jackson, but it's like, some of these directors, it's just their taste in their films, and someone else wrote it. Obviously, like J.R.R. Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings, but how Peter Jackson took that and adapted it was phenomenal. Along with obviously many other artists who came up with designs and renderings and things that he just chose and said yes to and no to. But still, those sensibilities are to be commended and respected, and praised, really, because if we don't tell people in the studios what we love and what we want, we're not, and we don't show it with our wallets, we don't pay for it, you're not going to get more of it, because it is a business. So anyway, so yeah, I'm sorry I've talked a lot and I haven't looked at the chat because I've been just monologuing, answering that question. And we're coming up to about the last 15, 20-ish minutes. So let me get back to the chat. As I'm messing around with teeth, I know it's not very exciting, but hopefully this was at least helpful for people out there, and will be helpful for anyone who watches this later, once this is not live. Anyway, sorry. So let me see, what is the chat saying? All right. Yeah, Lord Luigi Riggs. Gotta assure people you can work in a pipeline environment. Yep. Not gonna lie, it sounds like a lot of work. I think I'll just be a hobbyist. I mean, it's not that much work if you flow into it naturally. If it's where you're going and what you want to do, or how you operate naturally in some ways. And for me, a lot of it was, yeah, there's effort involved for sure, but there's also a certain level of, something is sublime about when you move through an industry or move into something. There's always like that birthing moment, right? There's like a breaching, a passing through a certain glass ceiling, a certain restraint, certain restrictive measure. And once you're past some of that, it's like learning to swim. Then suddenly it's still effort. You still got to, move your arms and legs, but you know how to swim. So like the hardest part probably, or the biggest part of the learning curve is overcome. And then it's like you have little struggles, but not like that big massive one to get out of something and, into a new environment. But yeah, I mean, if you just want to be a hobbyist, that's fine too. There's no shame in that. Do what makes you happy in this department, right? Life is short. Like, figure it out and go after it, right? So, which means work hard if it's going to be hard, or live in regret, which is even worse, I think. Develop some strength, develop some resistance, develop some resilience, right? That's what comes from working out, right? It comes from like taking care of yourself, but it's still work, it's effort, it's hard. It gets easier, but then you got to find new challenges to stay relevant, to stay employed, to stay strong. It's like anything. You don't just eat once and then never eat again. You got to eat every day, right? Or at least generally, if you're fasting, whatever. But not a perfect analogy, but you know what I mean. But basically, you can't survive without eating, right? You got to plug in more. You got to learn more. You've got to stay abreast of what's new and what's coming. So you got to be smart. What was your first ever real job as an artist? All right, mention that. Hey, no problem. Best advice, thanks so much. Career talk with Dan, yeah. As usual, Exodus, you've been here for these. Heard that I found me. I heard that they found me in a cafe kind of story before, yeah. uh, Loved Echo. That was huge. Really cool. Amazing now. The meaning of connections too, yeah. Do you have social media? Where can I follow? Yeah, I do have social media. Sorry, yeah. So I always forget that people don't know because I always mention it every stream, but not everyone's here every stream or at the same time. So you can follow me everywhere, pretty much all the major sites where I have an account, which is Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. You can find me that site / or at Daniel Lion Arts, all one word. So that's me. Instagram is probably where I post the most. I don't have a Discord dedicated under me. I have multiple people ask me for that, so I probably should start it, I guess. I mean, I'm on Discord, but I'm just on it to like talk to other people in other Discords, I guess. I'm not like a Discord expert by any means. I'm also on ArtStation, same handle. I don't update there a lot either, though. This is the thing. I've got to get better with my style of social media because I don't really like social media, honestly. I begrudgingly am a part of it. And it's terrible, I think, for my career in a sense, or for my, not my career, but I mean like my industry, because it's all about visuals and art and sharing people and showing people stuff. And I'm just not like, I take a selfie maybe like 2 or 3 times a year. Like, I don't really like taking pictures of myself. It's whatever. And I don't post as much as I probably should about like, oh, look, here's some new artwork, or I'll post like announce for this kind of stuff. Like, oh, my stream is coming today or tomorrow or whatever. Because it's just part of the gig. It's like part of getting people in here to some degree. But please, yeah, follow me everywhere, wherever you want, on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm trying to grow Instagram more. So if you wouldn't mind sharing or telling people if they are of similar interests and, would appreciate following some of this. And I should start posting, I guess, some of the stuff that I've said here, either like just clip some of this or just re-speak, reshare some of it on videos because I know I've heard people say that I've helped them just think about this more, be more inspired, or find some encouragement. And I know that I would appreciate that if I were in a younger position, artistically and trying to move forward. Just know that it can still be done. Like you can still have success. Like, just because you find other people that you admire or that their work is good and you want to be in their position or in a similar way, don't feel like that all the positions are taken up, because they're not, right? And people leave and change and die. It sounds so dark and terrible, but things happen where people are in a position and they're not, right? So like, there's always changeover, there's always turnover, there's always a new opportunity, a new company being founded, one shutting down, going bankrupt, another one springing up from that, the phoenix rising out of the ashes. You're always going to have turnover, change, and opportunity. Unless all of society collapses, there's this, as long as movies are being made and toys are being modeled and everything in between, there's going to be work. There's going to be work out there for all of us. And it's just a matter of working hard, pushing yourself forward, putting yourself out there, not getting bitter, not getting angry, not burning bridges, being kind, being authentic, be humble, be a hard worker, be a smart worker, and be good with people. Like I said, try to be likable as best anyone can, like, be a genuine person, be a good person, and be a hard worker. And those will pay off, but you also have to do what I'm begrudgingly doing. You have to put yourself out there, for better or for worse, right? You have to throw your stuff out there and let the wolves tear it apart, or whatever the other analogy would be. I don't know. Lick it. Love it. Whatever. I'm just thinking like a dog. Like, they'll attack it or what? Lick it, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean. Let's see here. That's the honest man's way of doing it now. What's the criminal way? Yeah, I don't know. Blackmail people to get you hired? I don't know. I don't know what the criminal way would be. Glad to see. I mean, like, being unauthentic, I guess, right? But then people hate that. Like I said, people smell BS a mile away. What's the on? Glad to see someone authentic on ZBrush. Yeah, thanks, dude. I hope most of them are authentic. I don't know. I think some people are just very robotic about their stuff too. Like, this is what we do next, and and that's great. I mean, but that's not me. So, I find people sometimes are critical of my streams because I'm not sculpting all the time. I'm sometimes talking like this and answering people's questions, or doing nitty-gritty things like this, which are not always that fun, but again, it's stuff that has to be done in order to complete a piece and have it look good. It's like stuff feels a little bit low. I think some of the teeth feel a little low. All right. Well, I could finagle them forever, but I think we're getting to that point where it's the upper teeth are about done. Just need to adjust the gums and then move on to the lower ones. So yeah, not the most thrilling stream. I'm sorry, I know, but again, like I said, this is part of the process. So this is what if you're pursuing this and this is the quality you want to produce or better, this is the kind of work you got to do, and it's sometimes tedious and time consuming and even boring at times. You know, oh shocker, working in the entertainment industry and doing things that are hard work are not always going to be thrilling, fun, and like smiles and roses and cherries. It's going to be laborious and time consuming and boring even at times, but it's just part of the process, you know. It's just getting from point A to point B. It's not always cherries and roses. Um, but again, keeping in mind what the end result will be or what you want it to be helps a lot. It helps you stay positive, motivated, put in the hard work, right? Put in the time. I've learned to kind of slowly master the art of a long-term goal, which is great, I think, really. I think it's healthy. It's a good thing I'm proud of in a sense. Um, shit. I've uh I've had certain pieces I started years ago and eventually came back to finish them, and people who remember them from years ago are like, "Holy shit, you're still working on that thing, or you finished that thing that I remember you working on years ago? That's commitment." And people seem to be surprised that I will have that level of commitment to certain things. But I think it's a healthy mentality to have developed and to maintain, because when you make a movie, we make movies, it's a long-term thing. You're not looking at a quick turnaround typically. I mean, no matter, even if it's a 90-minute movie, you're still looking at a good year or two probably, depending on what's all involved. At least probably 2 years, you know, and that's still moving fast. Before it's all said and done and ready to show the world. So understanding that things take time and that good work is never rushed, or can't really be rushed. You've got to have a certain amount of time available to make things happen. That's part of the game. That's part of the work. It's part of how it all happens. So these feel a little too turned inward. There we go. Jeez. And you know, something else good to keep in mind for everybody is there's always someone better. You know, I mean that's the reality too. Is you may not, maybe you won't find that person right now in your life. You know, you'll eventually get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm doing really good. I'm one of the best. There's always going to be somebody who comes along and just knocks your metaphorical teeth out of your face with their work and their quality. You know, it's gonna, and sometimes it's like it just comes out of nowhere. You don't expect it, and then it's just like wham! Oh my God, where did this person come from, and why didn't I think of that? Or holy shit, their stuff is so good, and you just feel suddenly inadequate and or like all my stuff is trash. That happens. Get over it. It's just part of life. Doesn't mean that you're obsolete. It just means you're human and welcome to reality. None of us remain on top forever. Um, sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day either, you know? Like, I need to finish up this first podcast episode and get that out there finally so that I can do more. And there's a lot I want to do with it still, even just the intro. I want it to be really cool, but again, part of me is like, well, done and getting it out there, even though it isn't everything I want, is better than not at all or waiting another 6 months. So, and then I also want to finish another making a video. I meant to finish it a while ago, and like last week or 2 weeks ago, I didn't. But there's a making a video of my A Quiet Place alien creature that I made. I'm doing this whole really elaborate video on this guy. Maybe not that elaborate, but it's a time lapse kind of thing. But also, I'm going to be speaking over it for how this thing was made and just kind of talk over, narrate over like what I did to create it. So I got to finish that up. Hopefully, I'll finish that today. Put that out there. That's the goal because most of it's compiled. Like I take all, you know, because I recorded myself making the whole thing and I mashed it all together and crushed it into about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Put some kick-ass music in there and just need to do a couple little title pieces and maybe some extra little third quarters, you know, or lower third quarters, whatever it's called, you know, like subtitle here and there and narrate, talk over it, and it should be ready to go. Yeah, I have a bigger version of this that I printed, and it's in the other room. And I filmed it and took some photos, really nice high quality photos of it with my camera and everything, in a nice light box setup and all that. So that'll be kind of the coup de grace, the final crescendo at the end of the video. So that'll be. I'll probably just work on that here before I head out, and then I'll go out and try to get a workout in. Try to go run by the beach. I'm trying to like just get out more, you know, like I sit in front of this computer so much, and it can almost be unhealthy. Other than walking my dog, you know, at least 2 or 3 times a day. But I think I just need to get out more and see people more and enjoy some of the fresh air more. Kind of important. But we are getting there. Sorry, I'm gonna catch up on chat quick. Where's the Patreon, Dan? Yeah, I need it. Thanks, Exodus. I do need to start one. That's the other thing I need to connect with my podcast because. Thank you, Exodus. I appreciate that. Seriously. Yeah, as part of the thing I want to do with this podcast. It's going to be so. Just let me tell you quickly about the podcast. It's called The Lion's Share. Makes sense. I already have the first interview done, and I have a couple other people lined up. First one was with the sound designer from The Last of Us and The Last Guardian and a bunch of other Sony PlayStation exclusives. He's also worked in film. He's become a good friend. Derek Caspino is a fantastic sound designer and somebody whose work I really admire. And he's also a great musician. Like he's a badass guitarist. Like he does a really good job. He lives over in Tokyo, and him and his little Frenchie, his dog. You should follow him too. Look up Derek Espino on IG, Instagram. He posts a lot of funny shit too. It's hilarious. He's a cool guy. Solid dude. But anyway, interview with him back at Christmas. This is how long I've been sitting on this shit. It's terrible. I feel bad. I'm being real. And I just need to get that done. So yeah, the intro is the biggest thing. It's the hold up. It's not the interview with him. It's all like ready to go pretty much. It's just I just wanted the intro to be a really special, cool visual feast, and it's not probably going to be exactly what I'm thinking of right now. But again, at least I can get something out that will look. Who cares about the intro really? It's just that's my hang up. Because you don't come to watch a podcast. I mean, like most of the time you're listening anyway, right? You're not even just looking at it. But anyway, it will be with creators of all types and as well as scientists, because I come from a science background, a medical background. I'm going to be interviewing all kinds of people, right? But staying within my main giant interests, which are science and art. and everything in between, which technology is the bridge, of course, right? Technology we use to create art, technology that's used to figure science out, and the art which touches people emotionally. So it's with composers and sound designers and directors and actors and writers and scientists, doctors, PhDs in whether it's physics or medicine or astrophysics or aerodynamics. I mean, I have friends who work at Northrop Grumman and friends who worked at Tesla. I had roommates, like 3 roommates. My last 3 roommates before I've stopped having roommates at all and I just live alone now. Last 3 roommates all worked at Tesla. Awesome guys. Very interesting. They can't say half the stuff that I've heard probably, or they can't share it publicly, but it's just fascinating to get a little inside glimpse of Tesla. And I would love to talk with some of them on camera and talk about what we can talk about and just talk about where technology is going, where they see the future of stuff like Tesla going. Anyway, so just really interesting people. I mean, I've met a lot of and befriended a lot of really fantastic artists and creatives, and I really just love talking with them. And I always make sure to ask questions because I love learning about people I'm a fan of course, right? And so I always work hard to not ask the same question that 16 other people or 1,000 other people have asked the person. I hate seeing the same because I feel bad. Like I often will watch, like I remember just recently, I've been watching a lot of the interviews with John Krasinski because I love The Quiet Place 1 and 2. I was lucky to meet him briefly at the live, which is why I made that print to give him. And I was lucky to talk with him privately for a little bit. Anyway, if anyone knows his... I should have got her card. I feel like an idiot. If anyone knows his marketing manager, his publicist, if anyone out there knows his publicist, please send me her email address or send her my... I think I gave him my card. Anyway, I don't know. I want to get him the bigger print that I've made because it's the one I gave him actually cracked in the bottom. It's embarrassing. I just need to get him one that's just fantastic and big. It's a big piece. Anyway, I watched a lot of interviews with him, and so many people have asked him and Emily like the same questions over and over and over and over. And they're always pros. They're always just really polite and kind about it, of course, and gracious. But they always wind up giving... You can only say 2 + 2 is 4 in so many ways, right? So they always wind up telling the same story because they get the same questions, and it becomes a thing, a routine, an act, or just a performance to get it out, just to tell the same answer to the same questions. And I'm like, dude, people should ask more creative questions because how many times can you ask the same person, like, so what made you want to make a horror movie? Or how did you meet your wife? Or I don't know, whatever. Just like these same questions where like a bazillion other outlets have the exact same question with the exact same answer. Like, ask original questions, ask more interesting questions. So I have a whole laundry list of stuff I'd like to ask him and other people that I've never seen interviews ask, like, ever. And I'm like, what? This is a very logical or interesting question that no one's asked. Why? Weird. All right. So I want my podcast to stand out in that it's going to be as original as possible when it comes to interviewing people. I have a whole extra questionnaire section that's a lot like James Lipton's whole like final 10 answers for the actors from Inside the Actors Guild. If you guys remember that older show, it's been fantastic. I loved it. So I have my take on his questions, as well as some other really fun, interesting set of questions that's for the tail end of all interviews. And it'll really kind of stir people up to give unique, interesting answers, and it's, a view into how people, a purview into how people's minds work a little bit, and just a fun way to get to know these entities, these people out there who are known, but maybe not known in this way, right? So I'm gonna see how many other of my friends who are famous I can get on here, and I think it'll probably be pretty easy once I get just a handful more lined up. I think it'll just sort of start to snowball, but it'll be a lot of fun. So the podcast will be great. There's creators and the movers and shakers of the arts and technology, really, is what it's going to be, art and science. So yeah. So the lion's share, it's going to come out, I would say July now, because we're at the end of June. Should have that podcast, the first one out, 4th of July-ish. And then, I got a couple composers lined up and a couple other creatives and game designers and whatnot. So it should be awesome. Should be epic and a lot of fun. So different, finally. Something different than what everyone else does. So anyway, let me see. Finish up here. I got to go because we're past 4 now, so I gotta jump out because I think someone's on at 5. Do I have a Gumroad or website or Wingfox course? I do not currently, Atlas, but I do have a Gnomon workshop course. So if you go to the Gnomon, spell it right, Gnomon. So I see here, Gnomon Workshop and search mastering 3D printing for the 3D artist. Search for that. You can find my course there for 3D printing. George B. Oh no. That's funny. Matches up pretty good to me. Anyway, it's okay. Plus, I have a scan of him, dude. I love it. People come in here and try to critique. It's okay. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But this is an actual scan of Mr. Reeves' face. His literal face, his real face. And then with expression added, and obviously the jaw has to move because that's neutral pose. I don't think you can get more accurate, really, other than having a more detailed scan. So, whatever. I think the glasses are a little off, though. I think that's what's throwing it off. But anyway, it's okay. You don't have to like it, though. It's fine. What was the last couple of things here? Thanks for the speech. It was needing it. Well, Lucas, I'm glad. Hopefully it helped. Technically a big demand right now, actually, at least in Asia. Yeah. Lots of job in 3D to go around. Yeah, absolutely. Be preaching about his podcast since the birth of Christ. Sorry, Exodus. I know. It's coming. It's definitely coming. So like create movies by chance. I discovered this page today. Don't know if you know about it, but take a look. Masterclass James Cameron. Yeah, I heard about the masterclass with James Cameron. I'm very curious to hear his take on it. Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, Last Guardian. Yep. Lion Share. Nice. Yep. Start studying at DEA in, I can't even pronounce that, Belgium. Okay, yeah. Nice. I was in Brussels, Belgium, and then I spent a lot of time in Genk. Or Gent? Genk? I don't know how you probably say it. Genk? I don't know. Genk. Trying to sculpt things every day, small props mostly. But I've seen they use Houdini a lot. How much of games are actually procedurally made, stylized games? Okay, yeah. How much of games are, though? I don't know. But I mean, it's becoming a more popular thing. Houdini's really powerful. Houdini's awesome. Yeah, it's huge. Yep. And yeah, so no more workshop. So, all right. Yeah. Unless you guys have any last burning questions, I should go because we are just a little bit past time. So, yeah. Nope, nothing else. All right. So I think we will. All right. What? What's used for retopo? Depends. I mean, sometimes ZBrush, sometimes Maya. So it really varies. Yeah, the short of it. Struggling to get my model into substance because of nanomesh and IMM brushes. Okay. You're struggling because of nanomesh and IMM brushes. So you probably have to do, I'm guessing, just from that little, oh, sorry, I get a call. From that little mention is you probably want to separate your meshes into several different meshes and then export it, or sure, you separate them into several like subtools. So you have like your teeth, which would be whatever, like your IMM, your nanomesh brushes, make sure they're real topology. So nanomesh has to be converted to make sure it's real topology, not just an instance. Maybe I'm thinking of array mesh. But anyway, either way, make sure that everything you have is real topology. Then make sure it's grouped into however many subtools you want. Make sure everything's UV'd, of course, duh. And then you want to export as an FBX from ZBrush and then import the FBX into Substance. That is, at least that was, maybe they've changed it now because I haven't looked at the newest update. But when I was working in Substance intensely, especially around December, January last year into this year, the FBX was the only way to get in multiple objects at the same time. And another interesting little key you should note if you're wanting to generate Eddie BB, thank you. If you wanted to generate normal maps, normal maps from a mesh that has, like, let's say the teeth are in his mouth, right? I want to have clean normal maps for that, and I want to get clean normal maps for his hair, or but there's a weird. Sometimes you'll get weird where it intersects with another. We have interpenetration between two meshes. You're gonna have weird normals here, or if something's too close to it, like if fingers, even sometimes if they're a little too like this, you want to have them splayed out more just to create your maps. So then let's say you're having trouble with certain normal maps in general. What I found a trick to do that's great is you want to explode your view in ZBrush of all your objects. So I'll show you really quick here, and then I have to go. So you have your objects here. You explode it like this. They've actually moved now, so they are a different space. So you save it before you hit explode. You save it out, right, as your OBJ or FBX or whatever you want it to, whatever the final version of the model needs to be. After this is all UV and ready to go, you now export it out like this, exploded. Say export, and then just plop it out wherever you need to. Then do your normal maps, all your map creation like that in Substance. So now each piece is not intersecting or touching each other. They're not even close to each other. They're all evenly separated. And if you export that out as an FBX, they'll all be together in a stack in Substance like this. And then you create all your maps for them, because nothing's changed UV-wise, right? It's just you've moved their place in three-dimensional space. You create the maps in Substance this way, and then now you can apply all those maps to the non-exploded original version of it like this, where any other app that you want to work with it in. And you'll have beautiful normals for everything, and it will all look as good as it can be without any of the intersection. But then when you put it together, like when it's normally together and you apply the maps, that'll all fall into place beautifully. So that's a really cool little tip that I figured out myself just from experimenting, and it makes a lot of sense and it works. It's kind of a bummer that there's not an option to kind of do that in Substance, but who knows? I know Adobe finally released their look and version on it now, which no one seems to be that happy with, but hopefully some of those helpful features will make their way into Substance eventually. But you're annoyed you missed the stream. Oh, my thanks, dude. Well, I mean, I just went on a long rant, or not rant, but speech, I guess, about monologue about what you need to do to get in the industry, and it's a lot of work, dude. It's a lot of work and a lot of love. Hopefully, that's where it comes down to it. So anyway, yeah, I got to keep working on this, though. It's not done by any means, but it's getting there. And but yeah, keep going. So anyway, I got to get going. I think someone else is streaming here in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So anyhow, cool. All right, guys, take care. Have a great week. Great 2 weeks. Give me a follow on Instagram if you have an interest. And yeah, we'll talk again soon. Take care.